And so today we're doing the self-care meditation that we usually do on a Wednesday. And I forgot to bring it with me, but there was a quote on Facebook, which I'm sure I can't remember, that was about how important it was to take care of ourselves. And that actually this kind of love, this unconditional love that we can have for ourselves enables us to have unconditional love for everything else. The things that we like, the things we don't like, the people who are nice to us, the people who aren't nice to us. But it all starts with our sense of unconditional love for ourselves. It's so important. For the first thing about it is that if we can have an unconditional sense of love for ourselves, just as we are, our lives become happier. Our lives immediately become happier, because we're not having this voice inside, this critical voice carping at ourselves. Eventually that will ease. We're looking after ourselves. Our inner child will feel safe. And all these different bits of us, these complex bits of us, will come together, and we will be more wholesome, more whole, and more integrated. But none of that can happen until we begin to accept ourselves. And once we do that, the bits that we'd like to see change begin to change just by themselves. And the bits that we can't change, we begin to accept them just as they are. So it's so important to practice this self-care, not just in a meditation, but completely throughout the day as we go about our lives. So when critical thoughts arise, just seeing them and letting them go. When things happen that we don't like and that we can't do anything about, just accepting them as they are, and they will change eventually. Things move on. And the bits about ourselves that we don't like, just beginning to accept them. And eventually, we may not like them ever, but they will be okay. They won't give us any problems. So this is the path to happiness. And once we have unconditional love for ourselves, once we start to follow that path, then automatically we will begin to have unconditional love for everybody else, which is so radical, and it's so much what we need in the world today to change this violence, and verbal and physical violence, this backbiting, this arguing and dissatisfaction in the world. It all starts with ourselves, and if we can change, the world will change. So on that, I hope, inspiring message, well, it inspires me anyway, let's get on with some meditation. But before that, welcome to Merce, Beth, Laura and Lyndall. Great to see you all. Okay, so this is a self-care meditation, and all we're basically doing is we're just taking a look inside at ourselves, and whatever we see, we're having a sense of loving kindness towards. But we'll begin in the usual way by settling into the meditation. Just taking stock of how we are right now in this moment. Mentally, emotionally and physically. And we may be feeling good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. And it doesn't matter. We just have to notice how we are and accept that. This could be our practice throughout the day. Bring our attention to the body, sitting on the chair, lying on the bed or the floor, maybe sitting on a cushion. Noticing the pull of gravity and allowing our weight to be held by whatever we're sitting or lying on. And getting a sense of the breath coming and going. Relaxing on each out-breath. Relaxing a bit more on the next out-breath. Just letting go of any tendency to do anything. Just being here in this moment. And you might notice the in-breath as well. When we breathe in, there's a sense of energy coming into the body, of alertness, sense of being uplifted. And coming into the chest now, into the lower area of the rib cage, right at the bottom of the rib cage, in the middle. And just moving our attention behind there into the body as much as we can. So you remember this is the heart center, the chitta. This is the source of everything we do or say. If we leave behind the ordinary mind that chatters at us, this is our mind, this is our heart mind. And it's full of kindness and compassion and wisdom. But it gets covered up with all sorts of chattering thoughts from the ordinary mind. So this area just below, just inside the bottom of the rib cage, if you bring somebody to mind that you really love, really love, person or a pet, just notice any sense of warmth that appears here in the body. If you can't feel anything, don't try too hard, because that's all right. Just stay open to maybe feeling something. Just keep thinking of somebody you love and relaxing, always relaxing. So if you can feel a warm, benevolent feeling here, not doing anything with it, but allowing it to grow. allowing it to spread through the body as much as it wants. Just enjoying any sense of emotional warmth and positivity. And then in the first stage of this practice, we're just going to take a look at ourselves, the whole of ourselves. And most of us, at any rate, there are bits that we get on with, they're okay, and there's other bits that we don't like. They might be physical, and they might be to do with the skills we have, the way we are in the world. Maybe our habits and moods, and some of them we can change. Might be quite hard, but they are possible to change, like habits, bad habits. But some of them we can't change. The way we look, some of the nature of our being, our particular talents and personality. That's much harder to change. So can we just accept that the bits we can't change are okay, and then work towards changing the bits we can? Not easy, but this sense of self-acceptance is so important to our happiness. And it just seems pointless to cause ourselves suffering and pain over things that aren't going to change. So can we bring a sense of loving care to the whole of ourselves, accepting ourselves exactly as we are right now? And if we can do that, the bits we can't change will become okay, and the bits we can change will begin to change. But it all begins with this unconditional love for ourselves. So just reflecting on that for a few moments. So this is a very big job, to give ourselves unconditional love, to accept the whole of ourselves. So we need some help. And the biggest help we can give us comes from ourselves. So can we be our own best friend in this endeavour? Can we have a part of ourselves that just reminds us that we're okay, whatever happens? Can we access that part of ourselves that supports us when times get hard, when we feel embarrassed or humiliated or upset? Can we find that bit inside of ourselves that will be always positive about who we are and where we are? It might be a very tiny voice. It might be quite difficult to find, but somewhere inside each of us is our own best friend, just waiting to support us, to get us through, to make things okay. So can we look for our own best friend? And can we encourage our own best friend to stay with us, to get stronger, to help us on this journey through our lives? In a way, we don't have to actually see this best friend. We can just feel him or her. We can feel this presence of him or her between the thoughts, between the negative thoughts. We can find a sense of ourselves that is always there for us, always our best friend. And in the third stage, we're going to explore this part of us that is often a bit scared, frightened by life, maybe not feeling quite up to the job of being us, maybe doubting, a bit wobbly at times. And we could see this part of us as a small child, our own inner child, perhaps a leftover from our real childhood. This part of us that is still uncertain and needs reassurance. And it might be helpful to actually imagine this part of us as a small child that gets upset, that cries, that feels frightened and unwanted at times, and worries a lot. So can we look after our own small child, just as we would any other small child that was distressed? Can we hold it close, reassure it, give it lots of love, lots of unconditional love? Can we take care of the small child within us? And while we continue to stay with the small child just by our side, can we bring to mind the critical voice inside? This is our critical self. And you could imagine the critical self as a person as well. And this critical self seems a bit harsh, a bit unpleasant, always there telling us that we're not good enough, or that we could have done better, or that we ought to know better. Constantly carping at us sometimes. But in actual fact, this critical self is also scared, also in need of reassurance. It just wants us to be safe. It just wants everything to be okay and for any dangers to go. It's scared about doing something wrong, being laughed at, being not good enough. So in a way, the critical self is a bit like the small child, except that it acts in a more assertive way. But it intends good. It wants a good outcome for us. It's just misguided. It can't see this critical voice that criticizing is negative and destructive. It can only see that it wants us to be safe and to do the things that make us safe. So we need to love this critical voice. We need to see the fear behind it, to see the uncertainty and the anxiety behind the criticism, and to reassure our critical voice. We may make mistakes, and that's fine. Everybody makes mistakes. It's the human way. And we can learn from our mistakes, but they're just part of the path of our life. We don't need to beat ourselves up over them. We can just see the areas that can be improved, and that's enough. And in the meantime, we can give love to ourselves. We can be full of care and attention and kindness to our critical voice, and to allow it to be reassured and fall silent. So during the day ahead, when your critical voice appears, maybe you can meet it with kindness and love, unconditional love, and see the pain behind the critical voice. So to end with, we're going to go back to the whole of ourselves. Very complex human beings and very imperfect human beings. And imperfection is absolutely fine. Imperfection is beautiful. If we were all perfect, that would be so boring. The beauty comes in the imperfections. And of course, there's parts that we would like to change, particularly if we're following a spiritual path. But we begin by seeing them with kindness and with acceptance. And these parts of us will change. We will learn to be our own best friend, looking after ourselves, reassuring ourselves, supporting ourselves through the difficulties of life. We can learn to look after our small child within and give it love and reassurance, hold its hand in difficult times, make it feel okay. And we can make friends with our critical voice. Give it the wisdom to notice the things that can be changed, but not to worry about them. Just to be there, just to help us on our way, seeing what we might change, but being accepting of it at the same time. So can we have a sense of unconditional love to the whole of ourselves? not just when we're sitting meditating, but throughout every minute and hour of each day. And maybe when we notice ourselves, when we notice the small child or the critical voice, just allowing the good friend to come in and reassure them. And then ultimately, maybe we become the good friend. So I'm going to ring the bell to end the meditation in a moment. And when I do, just taking your time, coming round gently. Well, that's a really important meditation for me. When I was on my ordination retreat, that's when the small child and the critical voice, that's when I first got to know them and realized that, you know, I could be my own best friend. I was away for 3 months up a mountain in Spain, living off grid with a few other people, and it was really hard. And I felt very scared at times about doing the wrong thing. I wanted to get ordained, and I was terrified that I wasn't ready, or that something about me might not be right. And so I learned a lot about the small child and the critical voice. I lived with them very at the front of my consciousness, I suppose, for 3 months. And of course, the good friend was there as well. And that really helped me to get through those 3 months and to change a lot in those 3 months, incredibly. So I do think that this is an important meditation for me, and I still get so much out of it by remembering these things, because I'm not there yet. I still have the inner child. I still have the critical voice, but as time moves on, I can see the change happening, and it's just magical, isn't it? So thank you very much for coming, and I'll be back at 11 o'clock for morning cuppa meditation. It's the last week of morning cuppa meditation. So if you want to come, do come. Otherwise, I'll be back at 8 in the morning, and just hope to see you again soon. And have a good day. Enjoy your day, and remember to be kind to the critical voice and the small child, and look for your own best friend. So bye for now, and lots of love to you all.